Hi, my name is Ava Gleicher. I'm a senior environmental studies and poli-sci double major, and my thesis is titled Using Food Justice to Integrate Urban Gardening and Emergency Food Assistance. So first, this project comes out of long-term and ongoing partnerships with Sacred Heart Community Services and the La Mesa Verde Urban Gardening Program. And in past research conducted last summer, my research team and I found that pantry volunteers tended to be unfamiliar with food justice, so folks who were handing out food in the food pantry, whereas LMV members were much more comfortable talking about food justice and race and food waste as a structural issue. And they were able to talk about food as a means of power. And so in this project, I wanted to see if those distinctions were universal, if other food pantries and urban gardens also had those differences and understandings about food justice. And so I interviewed staff at 3 urban gardens and 5 pantries in the South Bay. So my research questions are, to what extent are food pantries and urban gardens in the South Bay integrating a food justice approach into their operations? And then what additional resources might they need to integrate or expand that use of a food justice approach? So this research project features community-based participatory action research. And so essentially that means as a researcher, I am on equal footing with my community-based partners at LMB and Sacred Heart. CBPAR projects traditionally operate in a cyclical manner. And this project, like I said, grew out of lots of partnerships, several of which I've been a part of. And so getting into the specific methods, my partners connected me to the interviewees. The interviews were about 25 to 75 minutes, and they were conducted on Zoom and then transcribed, coded, and analyzed. And following the analysis and dissemination, LMB and Sacred Heart will utilize the data and the materials for community-based action, and then the cycle will restart, as you can see in the graphic to the right. So for my findings, I found that 3 out of the 5 food pantry staff were unfamiliar with food justice, whereas urban gardens tended to emphasize even food sovereignty over food justice. They were more focused on that sovereignty aspect. A lot of them also pointed to funding and manpower as a limiting factor. They wanted to see more consistent funding so that they could properly staff their organizations. They also pointed to a lack of communication. A lot of them had partnerships, but they weren't necessarily in like huge collectives that they were really able to communicate with and bounce ideas off of. Third, all staff recognize the relationship between food waste and food justice, and they all have strategies to mitigate food waste. And those are broad. They all do very different things. So again, related to the limiting factor in communication, I think that the food pantries and the urban gardens should pursue mutually beneficial partnerships with one another. One of the urban gardens had an excellent example of this with other organizations in the South Bay. But I think by partnering with one another, all of the organizations will be able to increase food justice and food sovereignty approaches within their organization, and then transfer that to the community, increasing food justice and food sovereignty in the communities. And also for urban gardens, by partnering with food pantries, they may help to raise awareness of the gardens and allow community members to pursue food sovereignty through lots of different avenues.